point. That's just dumb. All right, but what happens if you do it right? Well, then you get to do it like the Czech Republic here, okay? And they have managed here to, look at this. They brought their R naught below 1 5 days in a row now. 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 days in a row. And then they had 3 days right at 1. But they're now got their R naught below 1. How did they do that? Well, they did it with Masks for All. Very proud of what they've done there. Everybody's wearing a mask, and then this is what happens. And so look at this. They had ran a whole bunch of new tests, just 82 new cases of COVID-19. Overall, 166 deaths in the whole country. That's 16 deaths per 1 million population. That's 5 times less than the U.S., 7 times less than Sweden, 24 times less than Belgium. All a bunch of places with dummies who don't want to wear masks or do the social distancing or shut their economies down, depending on which country we're talking about. So Masks for All, that's how you do it. It's not hard. How is this that hard? It's just not that hard. That's what you do. And, of course, the gold standard for any pandemic is you want to halt your inbound infections. That's step 1. Just stop. No more new infections coming into town or your city or your state. Then masks for everyone. That's it. Those are the first 2 steps. If you just do those 2 things, you're going to have such a different experience on the curve than if you don't do those 2 things. And so, yeah. At any rate, how is this still not? How do people not know this? Listen, as long as if the idea here is pretty easy, right? We all understand it, but I'm agog and aghast that other people don't get this, including all these people right here. We don't know who's got the COVID. We don't know who's got this honey badger virus. It's got an asymptomatic spread period where people who don't have symptoms are capable of spreading it. Some people might be asymptomatic the entire progression of the disease where they are actively spreading it, never have a fever or cough. Other people are pre-symptomatic, meaning they will get the symptoms later, but are still have active viral infections that they're spreading. So you put a mask on everybody, including the people you can't tell by looking at them, and they don't even know themselves. You put the mask on them, and then what happens? Well, then they don't talk and sneeze and cough giant vertical blooger things all over your subways, your railings, and other public places and into the air, right? How hard is that to understand? All right. But remember, it was the U.S. Surgeon General himself who back there in February 29th was saying, stop buying masks. Seriously, people, they are not effective in preventing general public from catching coronavirus. They're not effective in preventing general public from catching coronavirus. Looks like they are effective, right? And of course, we knew that even here. It's the most basic, simple thing. Just look at a picture from 1918 and you'll find out that they seem to be important. All right. There's overt revisionism by the New York Times underway right now and other major media outlets, but I'm going to pick on the New York Times here right now because of just how illogical and inconsistent they're being here. New York Times just today here on April 17th came out and said, big article, with limited, constantly shifting information, the WHO showed an early, consistent determination to treat the new contagion like the threat it would become. Yeah, they say the World Health Organization, always cautious, acted more forcefully and faster than many national governments. But President Trump, oh, there it is. This is really an anti-Trump screed. I am apolitical. I'm absolutely apolitical. I don't have people on the left think that I'm horrible for not denouncing Trump, and people on the right think I'm horrible for not promoting Trump. I don't do anything. I don't do left, right. I do up, down. Either you are logical and rational and you can defend your position with facts and with a deep body of knowledge, or you can't, right? That's my axis. And you find people who can do that on both the right and the left. You can find people who can't do that on both the right and the left. So I don't do left, right. I do up, down. At any rate, and if I had to, if you forced me, I'd say a pox on both houses right now because they're both taken over by dummies on both sides of the aisle. So I want to point out this overt revisionism because remember, this was me on January 24th using the WHO's own pandemic checklist from one of their own pandemic documents saying that as of January 24th that we had ding, checked off phase 1, ding, checked off phase 2, ding, checked off phase 3, ding, and we had checked off phase 4 because that's where we were at the point on January 24th, but we rapidly, within a week, had made it to ding, checked 5. So by the first week of February. Actually, it was right around February 1st. We'd already made it through all 5 phases, which means we were in a full-blown pandemic, according to the WHO. So when did the WHO actually declare a pandemic? March 11th. Remember, every day counts. This is also the New York Times pointing out very helpfully in an article that came out not that long ago that this is the science behind what happens if you avert one case now versus what happens if you avert one case in 7 days. Well, if you avert one case now, you avoid over 2,200 cases. And if you avert that one case in 7 days, you only avert maybe 600 cases. That's the power of just waiting 1 week. So once again, how many weeks is it between January 24th and March 11th? That's, let's see, that would be 4 or 5. It's about 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. So the New York Times is here saying, well, the WHO did the best they possibly could with shifting information. Like, no, this is their own checklist. This is their own checklist. You don't get to rewrite history like that. And because of that, it wasn't like the WHO was late a day or 2 days. And by the way, New York Times, you know this, right? Every day matters. They were late by 6 to 7 weeks on this whole thing. Maybe longer. I would submit to you that they should have known even before I did because they had access to better data and all that. So I have openly called for defunding the World Health Organization. Why? Because I happen to believe that incentives matter. I happen to believe the consequences aren't just for little people and the poor, right? Oh, you jaywalked, here's a citation for hundreds of dollars you can't afford. Oh, can't afford that? You got to go to jail. All of that. I believe that incentives work at all levels because humans are humans. And I believe in the power of incentives. In fact, Charlie Munger is the right-hand man of Warren Buffett. He has a quote that I just love. He said, "Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome." Thank you, Charlie. That is a perfect statement. You show me the incentive, I will show you the outcome. So I believe that the incentive ought to be defund the WHO. Make it painful. Make them have to fire a bunch of their senior staff who botched this whole thing. Get rid of them. And then the next batch of leaders who come into that organization, they're going to behave a little bit differently. But if you don't have a consequence for the WHO declaring a coronavirus pandemic on March 11th, if there's no consequence for that, then you'll continue to have a defective organization who will continue to botch things and behave badly. Why? Because there's no difference between how you train a dog, how you raise a child, and how you scold an organization in this particular case. It's always the same because humans are humans, animals are animals. We all behave to incentives, right? Show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. Well,